Good evening, everyone. At this time, we're going to call to order the Special Finance Committee scheduled for this evening at 6:45 p.m. Clerk, if you could, please take a roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Here.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas, Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
At this time, there's only one item before us this evening. It's a resolution ordering a special referendum election to be held on June 4th, 2024. This item is sponsored by Council President Marino and Council Vice President Vargas. This is the only matter before this Special Finance Committee this evening. So at this time, we'll accept public comment on that matter. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in the Finance Committee meeting? No? Is there anyone online that wishes to speak?
There is no public comment.
Okay, at this time, we will close public comment, entertain a motion on the resolution.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Chair. Now, this is a Finance Committee meeting, so I'm going to ask a finance-related question. I see the Director of Elections here. Was this special election budgeted? Do you have enough money in your budget to put this on? And do we get any funds from state or federal to help with this election?
Good evening, Chair, members of the council. Councilman, so basically no special elections are budgeted unless they're known at the time the budget is put together, which is usually over a year out. In this case, it's a citywide special election, so it's going to cost a little more than the election that we had last fall in Ward 6, where that was just 2 polling places. This will be 6 polling places. But we are going to have basically a bare minimum number of poll workers staffing each polling place. Historically, turnout for these sorts of elections is very low. The last 2 times the city had a special school bond election were in 1994 and 2003, and each time turnout was between 3 and 5%. So we don't anticipate a large number of voters. We don't anticipate a large amount of overtime. So an election like this can cost anywhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. It depends on a few different factors. If there's, again, overtime, police detail, setup crews. The main thing that affects our election operation costs is the salaries of our poll workers. And like I said, in this case, we're looking to have, I believe it's 4 supervisors, a moderator and a clerk and a greeter at every poll. So it's about 42 to 45 poll workers. A couple of polls might have 1 or 2 extra staff members, but that's how it's shaping up at the moment. It's going to be on the Board of Elections agenda to approve the election calendar, I believe, on April 3rd, tentatively.
Thank you, Director Lima. And I just want to make one comment. I don't have any more follow-up questions for you. Just to my recollection, I don't ever remember you going over a budget in all your years running elections. So I just hope we remember that when you come in front of us again, or I'm sure you will remind us. If you're over, this is why, because we had to pay for this.
Well, Councilman, I've had nine budgets that I've managed in the Canvassing Authority since I've been here in 2017. And unfortunately, this is going to be the first one that's over. It's actually already over because of the special election from last fall. But that's the nature of running elections. We actually are pretty fortunate. If you look around the other 38 cities and towns, special elections are far more common. Cranston has luckily has that 6-month provision in the charter that has made special elections pretty much a rarity here over the last couple of decades. There are many other towns that have special elections pretty much on an annual basis. So.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions related to this matter? All right, seeing none, Clerk, if you could please take a roll on the motion is to approve.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The passes. There no other business before the committee this evening. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled Cranston City Council meeting for the month of March. This evening is March 25th, and at this time, we will ask the clerk to please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. At this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. First on the agenda this evening, we have the approval of minutes. I would first like for a motion to take the approval of the minutes as a block.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And next, I would entertain a motion relative to the block of the approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the block?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order.
So moved?
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And next this evening, we have the honor of some distinguished guests this evening with respect to Women's History Month. In the previous year, this council had passed a resolution relative to Women's History Month. And that resolution carries forward for the term, which includes this year. And this evening, several of us here this evening have some honorees that we would like to honor this evening. And I will be up first. Thanks. This evening, I am seeking to honor Gina Marie Russo. She is a proud Cranstonian through and through. She is a station fire survivor. She is an author of From the Ashes, which I highly recommend. And she is the current and standing president of the Station Fire Memorial Foundation. Most importantly, Gina is a mother. She is a wife. She is a daughter. She is a selfless human being. Going back to the time of the Station nightclub fire, some of us were around at that time. Some of us were not. And at that time, I recall that evening, I recall the days and weeks and months thereafter, and myself and others had the grace of being in the category of those who were praying for those who had lost their lives and for those who were suffering from the tragedy of the fire themselves. Gina, at the time, I did not know her. My husband knew her brother, and I recall distinctly getting updates as to Gina's status. I was not alone. I'm sure many other people who were around that time were praying for you as well. And, you know, I have to tell you, tonight is probably, for me, one of the most special moments I'm going to ever have in my life. And the reason for that is I try to live my life in a way that humanity matters first. I commonly say in life that it's what we do and who we are when no one is looking that matters the most. And you exemplify that. You exemplify that more than words that I can convey this evening. Your strength, I don't even think the words strength, courage, and fortitude accurately depict everything that you have gone through and that you have chosen to rise above, extending your hand to continually help others even to this day. Gina spends much of her time, as some of you may or may not know, helping other burn victim survivors. She's a member of the Phoenix Society of Burn Victims. The sacrifice that your family has made too, your children. You are now a proud grandmother. I omitted that piece. And you have lived a life and continue to live a life that serves as an example of what being a strong woman and a strong human being is, and what we should all model ourselves after. I do want to say as well, I know you've had recent losses in your family, and I'm sorry your parents are not here, this evening to see this, but I know they were sources of great strength for you, and that's why they bear mention as well. Your mom is here. Your mom is here. I know you recently lost your dad, yeah. But at this time, if you would be so honored, I would like to present you with a citation on behalf of the City of Cranston, the City Council this evening, in honor of Women's History Month.
I put on the glasses. Getting older, I'm getting blinder. Congratulations, Gina. Again, thank you for everything you're doing. The book, I haven't read it, but I look forward to reading. So thank you, Council President Marino. As our Council President noted, is Women's History Month, and we've just honored Gina. There's one other person that I'd also like to go ahead and honor. Before I do so, I'd like to say that during Women's History Month, and as we conclude the month celebration, we remember the contributions that women have made and the achievements of the past and the present who paved the way for so many of us throughout the years to our state, community. Sorry, I just got progressives, so clearly these are not working that well. Women have made in the achievements of the past and the present who paved the way for so many of us throughout the years to our state and to our community, and who have made history because of their risk, their passion, and their mighty selves. We honor and thank those women who have broken barriers and contributed to a wide range of areas and amplified their voices in so many fields like the fields of science, technology, community, advocacy, education, finance, construction, public safety, hospitality, law, healthcare, arts, business, communications, and in government. Now, before we get started, I would like to acknowledge 3 other women on the Cranston City Council with whom I've had the pleasure of serving to date. Having 4 women on the council has broken the norm. In other ways, we are breaking the glass ceiling with our first female council president, Jessica Marino. Today, as we're taking the time to recognize Women's History Month, not only with the City Council citations and acknowledgement, but also in acknowledging and really celebrating the achievement and the powerhouse and the motivation and the spark and the fire that these 2 women tonight are being recognized for. They are the driving forces, one of the many driving forces here in our state. What follows is a short introduction to Andrea, or Drea, as I tend to call her. But before I do, and do that quick little intro, I'd like to point out here that in the United States, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the USBA, there are 14 million women who own businesses, and that makes up 39.1% of all U.S. businesses, a 13.6% increase from 2019 to 2023. And women-owned businesses add $1.8 trillion to America's gross domestic product every year. Now, who is Andrea and what inspired her to open up business? Andrea Moreno Cabrera, who runs a successful business along with her family, Cafe Ava, a Latino business coffee shop right around the corner here in Rolfe Square, whose business is named after her beautiful daughter and whose business has been receiving much attention throughout the state and social media platforms, bringing in so many folks here into our beloved city of Cranston. Andrea is a native New Yorker with Guatemalan roots, and upon moving to Rhode Island, she attended Johnson & Wales, where she received her bachelor's degree in travel tourism in 2016, and then later on, her MBA in business administration. As soon as she married her husband, who is a native of Cranston, they had their first child. Her role as a mother was not without doubt obstacles. After all, motherhood has always been one of the toughest jobs on earth. At least I think so. For Andrea, one of them not spending enough time with her daughter was a concern. And so therefore she embarked on a journey to become a business owner, not quite a journey that she thought would be easy, but a journey filled with sweat, frustration, challenges, but also love, support, and encouragement. In addition to being featured on many platforms, Cafe Ava is a local business that provides Cranston with a taste of Latino culture through each sip of coffee, as well as a beautiful mural of Frida Kahlo, who through her indigenous culture and as a feminist, depicted the female experience in a way that inspired women and is remembered for her self-portrait. As a woman-owned business, Andrea saw the need to take the risk and invest in a business that would expose Latino culture to those around us, as well as investing in mobilizing the economy in the hospitality industry with her great coffee and breakfast right in our backyards, again, right here in our great city of Cranston. As a young woman entrepreneur in Rolfe Square, the Cranston City Council wishes your business, Cafe Ava, the most successful wishes as you continue with your business here in our city. And we also wish to extend our best wishes to each and a big thank you to every woman who represents us in so many different industries and areas in our great country and our state and here in our city. So Andrea Cabrera, Reno, if you can come on up and be recognized, we appreciate it. Thank you.
On behalf of the entire Cranston City Council, I want to say how honored we are to have the opportunity to lift up these outstanding women and small business owners during Women's History Month. It has been an honor to serve with the other 3 women on this council for the past 4 years. Tonight, I would like to present citations to 2 Cranston women who are not only successful small business owners, but they are also dedicated daughters, mothers, wives, and friends who have also been committed educators in our Cranston Public Schools. These 2 remarkable women exemplify excellence, innovation, and commitment, and they have been named the 2024 Rhode Island and New England Women-Owned Small Business of the Year by the United States Small Business Administration. Their Little Learners Academy has a fantastic Cranston location with another facility planned to open in Cranston soon and 3 other locations statewide. Congratulations to Charlene Barberi and Kendra Tangway. We wish you continued growth and success. Guys can come up.
Next on the agenda, we have public hearings and public comment. At this time, we will hear from members of the public on any docketed matters. If you wish to be heard in chambers, please step up to the podium stating your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes, and then we will take members of the public on Zoom. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard? In chambers? Nope. Last call? Nope. No one in chambers. Anyone online, Tom?
There's no public comment.
Okay. Right. At this time, we're moving on to reports of committees. Councilwoman Germain was unable to attend this evening due to an unexpected matter. She is reporting out of the Claims Committee. I see Councilwoman Germain as chair. I'll pitch to Council and Poplaskis, who is Vice Chair of that committee, to report on not too much.
Thank you, Council President Marino. Claims Committee met on March 4th. They met in executive session. There is a report here with a link, and that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Poplaskis. Next, we have Councilman Ferry as Chair of the Safety Service and Licenses Committee to report out of committee. There's nothing you can.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you. And then we have Councilman Donegan as Chair of Finance Committee.
Thank you. I can't promise this will be as quick as the last two committees, but we do have some things to report out from our Finance Committee meeting that was held on March 4th. The first being the consideration of tax interest waiver approvals for the month of February 2024, as requested by the city treasurer. This passed out of committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next before us, we have a resolution authorizing tangible tax abatements as recommended by the tax assessor. This passed out of committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing motor vehicle abatements as recommended by the tax assessor. This passed out of committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
We have a resolution in full support of fully funding state aid to libraries to the full 25%. This is sponsored by Council President Marino and Councilwoman Renzulli, co-sponsored by myself, Councilman Wall, Councilman Paplaskas, Councilman Campiano, Councilwoman Jermaine. This was passed out of committee, and I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. May I be added as a co-sponsor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution related to a federal grant to the city of Cranston valued at $7.2 million. This failed in committee, and therefore this is before us on the docket for informational purposes only. Lastly, we have a resolution ordering a special referendum election to be held on June 4th, 2024. This is sponsored by Council President Marino and Council Vice President Vargas. This passed out of committee earlier this evening at a special finance committee, and I would encourage passage this evening.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan.
If it is okay with the co-sponsors, I'd like to be added.
That's wonderful, yes. And Councilman Ferry?
Same here.
Yep. Councilman Wall? Yep. All right, no further discussion from members. I would just like to say, this June 4th special election, just to remind the public, is necessary so that we as a city can potentially avail ourselves, if the voters so choose, of the 74% reimbursement potential relative to the RIDE reimbursement for our school bonds. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And next this evening, I will pass it over to Council Vice President Vargas for Public Works and Ordinance Committees.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee was held on March 14, 2024. There is nothing to report on the Public Works Committee. Happy to move on over to ordinance. Okay. The Ordinance Committee met on March 14th. There's a few ordinance. First item was 2-2401. That was an ordinance and amendment of Title II. Apologies, Title II, Administration Personnel, Chapter 2 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinance 2005. Entitled Committees, Commissions, and Council. This failed by a vote of 2-6 of the Ordinance Committee at the March 14, 2024. Again, this is for informational purposes only, and there is no vote to be taken. The next item is 2-2404. That is Ordinance and Amendment of Title 17, Zoning, Section 17.120.020 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Procedure for Adoption or Amendment. This is sponsored by Council President Marino, and this was passed out of committee on March 14, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. The next and last item under Ordinance Committee is 2-2405. That's an ordinance amendment of Chapter 3.08 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Board of Contract and Purchase. This is sponsored by Council President Marino, and it passed out of committee.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Thank you, Council Vice President Vargas. Next, as we had a motion to take the agenda out of order, I'm going to move to on page 4, election appointment of city officials. I will first take up the appointment of Peter Ravelli as Democratic alternate to the Cranston Board of Canvassers through the unexpired term ending March 5, 2029, as nominated by Mayor Hopkins pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 17-8-1. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? And just for the record, I know the clerk has his resume, which was circulated today. Is that correct, Tracy?
No, that was the resume of the next appointment, Peter Ravelli.
Yep. We are on Peter Ravelli. We took it out of order. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know you got a lot going on down there. All right, it's fine. Okay. But for the record, Peter Ravelli.
Yes, Mr. Ravelli's resume was circulated, yes.
Thank you. Okay. Councilman Donegan.
I want to, I've had the opportunity to meet Peter Ravelli, Mr. Ravelli, on several occasions. And anytime there's like a cleanup in Ward 3, especially at like Governor Sprague Mansion, he's always very helpful, more than willing to not only come himself, but he brings a couple of his nephews. And so he's always been tremendously helpful with some neighborhood cleanup. So just to speak to his character.
Sure. Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. I'll just echo what Councilmember Donegan said. I don't know Mr. Ravelli, but I've heard a lot of good things about him and his reputation precedes him, so I'll be in support of this nomination this evening.
And no further discussion. Tracy, if you can please take the roll on the appointment of Pete Ravelli. Thank you.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next this evening, under the same category of election appointment of city officials, we have the appointment of Stephen Piscopello as Republican member of the Cranston Board of Canvassers through the unexpired term ending March 5, 2029, as nominated by Mayor Hopkins pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 17-8-1. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Paplaskas.
Just like this, glad to see Mr. Piscopello's name here as a candidate for this position. He's a long public servant, a lot serving our city's youth through Little League and other ventures. So I'm certainly in support of this evening. Thank you.
Any other discussion? No. And just to the administration, I don't think that the clerk received a resume for Mr. Piscopello. Do you have one, or will you be updating us with one?
I don't have a resume, can get you a resume, but as Councilman Papalakis says, I think just about many people know him for the decades of service that he's done to the residents of the city. But if you need a resume, we can provide it to you.
I believe past practice, we typically have a resume, so, okay. Any further discussion from council members? Councilman Donegan?
To the council president's point, we almost always have a resume for this. I don't want to, Councilman, your word means quite a bit to me, but this is a full member to the Board of Canvassers. I think having a resume is appropriate. But I also don't want to see this go down. So what's the course of action here?
Councilman Paplaskas?
While we don't have a paper resume here, I can just attest that Mr. Piscopello has been the president of, hold many positions with Cranston West Little League for decades. He's also a deputy director for the Cranston Parks and Recreation, or Recreation Department, because it's separate. They have a Parks Department and a Rec Department. Has been the director, acting director, and associate director over decades for the city of Providence. Like I said, he's dedicated to public service and youth. I believe he has a master's degree or a bachelor's degree in social services. So I know I've spoken to him on many community issues over the years. I think he'd be an asset for the city, even though we don't have a resume. And over the years, we have moved forward. It is the Republican pick. I know the Republicans support the Democratic pick. I would hope to see this move forward, especially with a special election coming up. And I know Mr. Lima needs a full board. I'm personally vouching for him. So thank you.
Councilman Wall?
All right, just, and just like Councilman Donegan said, I wouldn't like to see this held up and the importance of the special election, but I'm being the new guy, I'll ask the question. Is this something we have to have going forward? Is this, a resume? Is this necessary or is it not? I'm new at it, so I'd just like to know.
I'm going to ask at this time if Director Lima, if you can maybe just speak to the need for the vacant position and if you have anything to add relative to the resume.
Thank you, Council President, and hello, good evening again, members of the council. Nick Lima, Registrar Director of Elections for the City of Cranston Canvassing Authority. So as the council is aware, Board Member Jim Donahue has tendered his resignation from the board at the end of this month. He's been serving on the board since last spring, which opens up one of the 3 seats, and under state law, it's required to be a bipartisan authority. So there must be at least one member from each political party represented on the board, and there's a 3rd seat that's kind of a swing seat that can go to either party. So at this time, there are no Republicans serving on the board, and also Jeff Barone, who was the Republican alternate, resigned from the board in January due to time commitments. So there is no Republican alternate seat on the board as well. As you know, we have an election 1 week from tomorrow, the presidential primary on Tuesday. We're currently undergoing early voting. And of course, we also have a special election on June 4th. So we do have a significant amount of work ahead of us for the Board of Canvassers. 2 members of the board under state law does constitute a quorum. However, if that means if one member is late at work or has a commitment or is traveling, we can struggle to get a quorum. So having that third member is very important because in the absence of one other member, we may not be able to get in a quorum and we cannot fulfill our duties. In terms of the requirement for resume, that may or may not be past practice of the council. I can't really speak to that. I can just illustrate what the requirements are in Title 17 of General Law. This is a position that's created by the General Assembly, and it's completely controlled by state law. And the requirements are that they must be a member of the party that they're appointed for and maintain their affiliation with that party. They cannot be an employee of the federal, state, or the government or the government of the city that they're being appointed for. And they also cannot be a candidate for public office while serving as a member of the board.
Council Vice President Vargas. Thank you, Director Lima.
President, I guess my question more of the resignation that came in is it doesn't go into effect until actual April 1st because it expires at the end of this month. Right? I think that's what I heard you say. The resignation was submitted.
I
Was
believe
that immediately
I
or is
believe,
that?
Council Vice President, there is a March date on the resignation. I believe it's
Okay.
March 29th, but I can pull up my email and find it
Okay.
if you'd like.
Just curious, if this was to be moved, if so decided upon for April 1st, given that we're here on April 1st, would that be a problem for you? April 1st is just a week from today. And it'd still before the election.
So ideally, we want to get the board members situated as soon as possible so they can get into training classes, so I can begin outreach, we can get them sworn in. Because on April 1st, I'm not even going to be here. I'm going to be setting up our polling places. It's also the final day of early voting, and of course, April 2nd is election day itself. So for our perspective, really, it's the sooner the better. But as soon as possible, I would say.
Thank you.
Before you're heard, Director Moretti, I just want to say this, just to be clear. I don't know, Mr. Piscopello. I appreciate Councilman Poplauskas giving us some insight as to what his background is. I also understand the importance of filling the Board of Canvassers positions. And as Director Lima had mentioned, relative especially to the upcoming elections and the imbalance, if you will, for lack of a better word, relative to the party membership that's required for the Board of Canvassers, political party affiliation. My inclination this evening is that I will be in favor of the appointment, provided that I will also take the administration at your word that we can just get a resume on file this week relative to Mr. Piscopello. I think that that's a fair and reasonable alternative, at least something that I'm comfortable with. I can't speak for others. And Director Moretti.
Thank you. Yeah, just want you to know is in appointing, recommending for appointment of these people, the administration consulted with Director Lima. He did not mention a resume was needed. I do ask, we have two solicitors here, perhaps they could see if it was a requirement that the person have a resume. I was not aware of it. If it's a requirement, by charter or ordinance, I don't think you should pass them. But if it's not required, I don't think holding them to a higher standard is necessary.
I might be the wrong person to ask. I happen to have personal knowledge of Mr. Piscopello. He went to St. Teresa's Grammar School on Manton Avenue in Providence 1 year ahead of me. And then he went to Classical High School 1 year ahead of me. He was an all-star baseball player and was probably born with a mitt in his hand. It's what he does at Cranston West as a coach. He's invested in the community, I'm sure. I'd be surprised if he wasn't. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But that's certainly where his resume begins, I can assure you, and continues, I'm sure, with a baseball glove in his hand. John, I don't know if you want to give an opinion. There's a past practice, but there isn't a rule on a resume. It's a good idea to have one on file, but he comes recommended by the administration, and there seem to be enough people in the room aware of Steve's reputation.
Well, to segue from that, maybe I'm not the best person to ask either, because Mr. Piscopello is a close friend of mine. I played softball with him beginning in the 1970s. I am very familiar with his qualifications and his educational background, his family, so on and so forth. I do know he was, for a long time, I believe he was Assistant Director of Recreation in the city of Providence for decades. I think it was over 20 years. I'm not aware of any rule that requires a resume. I mean, clearly this is up to the body to decide, but like Mr. Angel, I have a personal bias in favor of Mr. Piscopello.
Thank you to Director Moretti, to Attorney Angel, Attorney Verdecchia. And to be clear, yeah, the point this evening for council members is that some of you have the privilege of knowing the person who's being nominated, and many of us do not. And it's a reasonable inquiry, as this body has done continually in the past, asking for a resume. And never once this evening did I state it was a requirement. It's just a courtesy. And to that point, Director Moretti, just for reassurance purposes, I would just like to say that you will be able to just provide us with a resume this week. If you can, then I'm a green light. It's a simple request, just so that we have it for our purposes. Right, I'm looking to you. Yes, please, Director.
Yes, I'm assumingly he has a resume prepared and he's a professional. I think I can quite confidently get it to the council.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. Councilman Wall.
Well, seeing I kind of stuck us down this rabbit hole a little bit and asked the question, I'll come around full circle and say, you've answered my question fine, and I will be in favor of the candidate this evening.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for your compromise, and if Mr. Moretti cannot furnish that, I can get it by tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Okay. No further discussion. Clerk, please now take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Welcome, Mr. Ravelli and Mr. Piscopello to the Board of Canvassers, and thank you for your service. Next this evening, we have a report of city officers. We'll move to on page 5. Director Lima, if you would please do us the honor. Thank you.
3 times tonight. Long time no see. Good evening again, Council President, members of the council. So I just wanted to take a few minutes here, and I thank the Council President for providing me this opportunity, because the Canvassing Authority is at an unprecedented, has an unprecedentedly challenging year ahead of us. Never before in modern recent history has the Board of Canvassers been tasked with conducting 4 citywide elections in the same calendar year. I have very high confidence in our staff and our poll workers and our ability to effectively handle those elections for the voters, because we did conduct 4 citywide elections in about a 1-year period from June of 2020 through March of 2021 amidst extremely challenging times during the COVID pandemic. But elections administration has changed drastically just in the last 4 years. Nationwide, there are threats against election officials. Nearly half of the senior election officials at the municipal level and the county level around the country have left their jobs or changed positions in the last 4 years. And even here in Rhode Island, almost half of the of my colleagues, election administrators in other cities and towns, have left. And that's because the job is not what it was just a few years ago. Cybersecurity is a very big part of it now. Public records requests are larger than they've ever been. And there's a lot of, obviously, public interest in election integrity. And there's also been a lot of physical threats against election officials, against election offices. We've actually had a couple of physical security incidents in Cranston in the last couple of years, both of which resulted in arrests by local law enforcement. And that's, that's the norm now, unfortunately. So heading into this election year, I just want to make sure that the public is aware and that the council is aware that we have been preparing for this for months now. Going back into last fall, as soon as the special election wrapped up, we started getting ready for this year because of those challenges ahead, and we want to be ready for them. As you know, right now, we are conducting the presidential preference primary. It's a relatively low turnout affair at this time. As of this afternoon, we've had 233 early voters at the Pastora Youth Center and 484 mail ballot requests processed by our office, of which roughly half have been returned to the Board of Elections for tabulation thus far. Voters have until 8 o'clock on election night on Tuesday to get those back. We are opening 12 polls on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, for the presidential primary. That is twice as many polls as the city opened in 2016 for the presidential primary. It's also twice as many as were opened in 2012. In both of those elections, there were just one poll per ward. Now, in 2020, we had COVID. It was predominantly mail ballot election. There were actually only 2 polls in the city. So we are opening more polls than for any presidential primary going back to 2008. If we had a magic wand, perhaps we wouldn't do that because of the low turnout, but these decisions all had to be made before the candidates were even known in Rhode Island back in December. So there'll be 2 polls open per ward. We have 107 poll workers that we've hired. And we'll be finishing up their training tomorrow night right here in council chambers. And we'll be putting up signage, including lawn signs and signs on the doors of all 13 polls not in use on April 2nd. And I hope that everyone here, if you're a resident of the city, as the council of course all is, received our mailer that came in a couple weeks ago. That actually involved a little bit of a bump in phone calls and communication with our office. We got a lot of requests for mail ballot applications, and we're able to make adjustments to our permanent list, which I think is going to help us a lot in the fall. But that's what's going on with the presidential primary. As soon as the primary is over, we're going to switch gears and jump right into the June 4th special election. The School Bond Act from the General Assembly is currently under consideration. It has passed the Senate. It has passed the House. It may pass in concurrence as soon as this Thursday. It hasn't been scheduled just yet, but it's making its way through the General Assembly. And I've spoken with the Secretary of State's office, and we are prepared as Board of Canvassers to certify that ballot question to the Secretary of State on April 3rd, when the board meets to tabulate write-in votes and adjudicate provisional ballots for the primary. So a week from this Wednesday, we'll be certifying that ballot question. That's a week and a half ahead of our statutory deadline of 50 days prior to the election, which is April 15th. For this June 4th special election, the Board of Canvassers has already had our polls approved by the state. We will be opening 6 polls in total. That's 1 poll per ward. So Scottish Rite for Ward 1, Cranston East in Ward 2, Pastora Youth Center in Ward 3, Hope Church in Ward 4, Kelly Gazzaro, Ward 5, and the Schofield Armory in Ward 6. And that is similar to what was done in both 2003 and 1994, when the city conducted a citywide school bond special election and likewise opened 1 poll per ward. We will once again be sending out a mailer to all voters, letting them know about these polling place changes. That will be going out the week of May 13th to all 30,000 voter households in the city, similar to the mailer that you just received. There'll be a postcard. It'll have early voting information as well, and it'll additionally have information about the school bond question provided by bond counsel. As soon as that election wraps up, I expect the Board of Canvassers to be able to certify that bond question by June 10th or 11th and certify the passage or failure of the question to the Secretary of State. And I know that the city is facing a deadline with the reimbursement rate. And I'm not too familiar with the legal machinations there of how that works, but I know from an election administration process, this election will be wrapped up by the 2nd week of June. We then immediately shift gears into the fall elections. Candidate declaration for the fall elections begins shortly thereafter. June 24th and 26th is always the last consecutive Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in June. And then the week following, in the 1st and 2nd week of July, is a nomination period where our office will be receiving thousands of signatures from candidates for local, state, and federal offices, as well as the independent presidential candidates. Then we get right into mail ballots again for August and September. Early voting, which runs from August 21st to September 9th, again at the Pastora Youth Center. and then the primary on September 10th, and early voting again from October 16th to November 4th at the Pasteur Youth Center, with the general election being held on November 5th. Now, we're not doing this for this presidential primary, we're not doing it for the special election, but this fall, we do plan and we have budgeted for opening up early voting on a Saturday, the Saturday prior to the election for both of those fall elections. So that'll be Saturday, September 7th and Saturday, November 2nd. That'll be a full day, 8:30 to 4:30. We'll have the Pasteur Youth Center staffed. And the hope is that will give more opportunities for voters who may not be able to get there during the workday, during the week, but also critically, we've noticed for these major elections, it can be very busy on the day prior to an election. We had over 1,000 voters come to City Hall here in November of 2020 on the last day of early voting. If you remember, there was a line from Cranston East all the way to the fire station when the polls closed at 4 o'clock, and everyone in the line then had to vote. And I think we get the last voter through around 7. So to try to mitigate that, we're hoping the Saturday prior to each election will alleviate that somewhat. I thank the council for the Board of Canvassers appointments this evening. It's very important that we have a full board, and we'll be getting those board members onboarded starting tomorrow. Also tomorrow, our voting equipment will be delivered to our 12 polls around the city. And again, early voting is continuing for the next week. So if you haven't cast your ballots yet, you can either vote on election day. You can go to the Pasteur Youth Center, weekdays 8:30 to 4:30, ending on Monday, April 1st at 4 o'clock. Or if you need a mail ballot, you can still contact our office for an emergency mail ballot. So that's generally speaking what's happening with the elections this year. If there's any questions from the council, I'd be happy to answer them. But there's a couple of other interesting occurrences going on with elections I wanted to make you aware of as well. And that is we're going to have a new political party for the first time in over a decade. The last time there was 3 parties in the state was the Moderate Party. The State Board of Elections just a couple of days ago approved the No Labels Party, which successfully turned in over 30,000 signatures around the state, including several thousand that were verified by our office. So beginning right after this presidential primary, when voters register to vote, they'll have that option on the voter registration form. And then if the party then has to get a candidate on the ballot for the presidential election, if they get 5% of the vote, the party continues. If they don't get 5% of the vote, then the party may be decertified. And finally, I mentioned the security aspect of elections and the enormous challenges that we're facing there, but we are getting a lot of support. The Secretary of State, Greg Abori, and his staff have been incredibly supportive of us. We've applied for and actually received the last couple of years several grants and lots of other support from the Secretary of State, both Secretary Gobert and now Secretary Amore. And earlier today, we actually had a meeting with Congressman Magaziner and also Chairman Benny Thompson. If you know him, he's a congressman from Mississippi he was a co-chair along with Liz Cheney of the January 6th Commission. He was in Rhode Island today, again, to help reinforce the message that election officials are people's neighbors, our election staff are residents of Rhode Island, residents of Cranston. We've got over 400 poll workers that'll be working these 4 elections over the course of this year. They are your neighbors, your friends. That they are people that are civic-minded and have an interest in serving democracy and serving the community. And there are an increased number of threats against election officials. It's becoming more and more difficult for us to recruit those poll workers. We're okay for these smaller elections, but we're going to have a major challenge ahead of us this summer. And I would, of course, always ask for the support as the council has always been incredibly supportive of our efforts for poll worker recruitment. And also to spread the word out there that the election officials that run our polls on election day, that run our polls at early voting, and of course our staff in our office, who have over 60 years of experience between them, are dedicated people who want to make sure that our elections are accurate, that our elections are fair, and that we get things right. And that's the message we want to convey to the public. And as we head into this very challenging year, I just wanted to convey that to the council and here publicly as well. Thank you, Council President. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Lima. I just want to thank you as a registrar, as a steward of that office, and to all of the workers and the volunteers, because I know it's a heavy lift in the political climate in which we all live. I appreciate the update this evening. Do any council members wish to be heard? Councilman Ferry?
I just want to tell you one thing. If you looked up the word determination in the dictionary, there would be an 8 by 10 of you there because you do a great job with these things. Thank you very much for all your work.
Councilman Paplaskas?
I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to your budget presentation in April. And it's the only department I really look forward to every year. So
The state of the Kansas City Department address never disappoints, Cal.
this year is going to be a Hall of Fame budget presentation, I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lima. Next this evening, we'll move on page 6, for informational items. It is listed as the presentation from Melinda Howard, Engagement and Outreach Specialist, Households with Children Medicaid Renewal Coordinator, the State of Rhode Island Executive Office of Health and Human Services. She unfortunately this evening, while she wished to attend, was unable to attend this evening. And she specifically requested that I read this evening what she wanted to convey. She has relayed that she wants to thank the Cranston municipal and school officials for assisting with notifying households with children about the importance of renewing their Medicaid coverage. The first year of post-pandemic renewals is ending in April. Federal law requires the ongoing renewal of Medicaid coverage each year. The state website, statecovered.ri.gov, provides current information on renewal requirements. And if you visit that site, you'll be able to access information about your renewal dates. I know the school department, through some of the guidance of School Committee Woman Chrissy Haroyan, has reached out to the school department as well, relative to helping to spread the word, particularly because this involves the children in our community. All right. That's it on that subject. Anyone have any comments? No? Okay. Moving on to, next, we will go to page 5, Executive Communications, Legal Expense Analysis for the period of July 1, 2023 to March 19, 2024 for informational purposes. Does anyone have any questions, any comments? No, there being none. Moving on to an update on the comprehensive plan status report from Planning Director Pizzullo. I do not see him in chambers. Does the administration have anything to add relative to that topic?
Council President, as you know, Mr. Pizzullo's position, Planning Director, doesn't report to the administration, and we don't have authority over it, so we have to defer to Mr. Pizzullo.
Fair enough. I do believe, if you can confirm, there were 2 recent hires to that department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
So I know there's 3 planning types. I forgot the exact titles. And now there's, and I believe there's one more position, a lower level professional, if you will.
okay.
But
Okay, great. Yeah. So we can just share. I know that they filled 2 of the vacant planning positions, which I'm sure will be of assistance. And last I have heard is that they're working diligently with the Plan Commission and the vendor. The name escapes me, but it's Ashley Sweet. I forget the company name. Weston and Sampson, that's it, yep. Relative to the comprehensive plan. And last I heard, they're on target and on time. So we'll be watching that. Okay. Any comments from council members? Nope. Okay. Next at this time, we'll go to public comment for undocketed matters. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters, now is the time. Please, if you're in chambers or on Zoom, when you are speaking, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Thank you.
better? Although I've been told I don't need a microphone. I'm here tonight. I passed out some paperwork. I served as a member of the Board of Canvassers loyally and with integrity for 5 years. Although members of the GOP party have done their best not to make it appear that way. On November 7th of 2022, a series of pictures was put on Facebook on a web page, a Facebook page, entitled What's Going On in Cranston. It calls itself a news and media site. The page transparency is questionable because there are 2 admins for this page, and the admins are cloaked. There is no way to determine who these admins are. However, the pictures that were taken of me having conversation with Councilman Ferry, and it was in fact a personal conversation, were taken by Jason Angosia, Communications Director for the City of Cranston. And as a result of the fact that I was called outside that day, we were supposed to have a police detail at Pastore Center, which never showed. And there were people with campaign signs in the middle of the driveway, blocking it so voters couldn't enter from Gansett Avenue, and then taking their Okay. Okay, all right. So to go back again, at no time did I tell anyone to vote Democrat. And that is what was posted on this website. As a result of that, it was not the only thing that was posted. What was posted was from the canvassing office, my name and the fact that I was a Democratic alternate, putting a target on my back as a Democratic election official. That meant anybody who thought I was doing what I was being accused of could go on to Google my name. You can pull up my home address. You can pull up my telephone number. There are a lot of crazy people out there. And I don't think anybody in this room would appreciate that. Now, the question is, and I look right at you, Nicole Renzulli, are you in fact the admin of this page? Answer the question. She is a city council member. If she has anything to do with a news and media site like this, spreading false information about another election official, she needs to answer.
Right of personal privilege, Madam President? No?
This is an unnoticed discussion topic according to the Open Meetings Act. It's open for public comment, but it needs to be addressed elsewhere. And the speaker is outside the bounds in demanding an answer to a question of a council person for undocketed item. Sounds like a personal matter to me. It should be addressed outside the
Not at
chamber.
all a personal matter, sir.
It's a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and that's my ruling. Sorry to tell you that.
Violation of the Open Meetings Act. Well, good, then we can get on to another discussion about the 17 months that the mayor
Point of order.
left.
Madam President, how many minutes are we?
We are on, it was 8:08. I had actually just asked the clerk, so, and given some interruptions, we're down to probably about another minute. That's it. Is that correct, clerk?
Thank you.
Yep. Yep, Ms. Patron, 60 seconds or less.
Okay.
Yep, because.
What I'm going to ask is
We're
this,
tracking.
and I don't think this is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, is that the council investigate to see in fact if Ms. Renzulli is an admin of this site. And the fact that she has disseminated false information should be subject to some kind of reprimand. I would request that as a taxpayer, as a former member of the board, as someone who's acted with integrity. I hear the word disparaged used a lot by the GOP in this city. Disparaged? I've been impugned. My integrity has been impugned. Sorry, you're disparaged. I'm done.
Madam President, may I speak as my name was mentioned? I thought that was part of our council rules, that if someone came and personally attack you, you can speak. No? Okay, well, I would offer you a comment, but I'm being told by legal counsel that I cannot. So I cannot.
Next member of the public.
My name is Dante Marinaro. I am from 132 Unit 3, Forson Avenue. Coming for the same reason I've been coming so far. We all know that this past Saturday,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. The stenographer is having difficulty, and so am I actually hearing you. I know the acoustics aren't that great. If you could get that mic very close to you and just make sure the green light is on, because we can't hear you. Thank you.
the green light is on. Can you hear me better now?
If you just get close to the microphone. There you go. Thank you.
Sorry. I repeat, Dante Marinaro, 132 Unit 3, Forson Avenue. And coming here regarding again the flood from December 17, 19, and January 10. We all know that I've been saying all along that the January 10 didn't look like a rain or water issue, the flood, the damaging flood that we had. And the proof is that this past Saturday, we had about 4 inches of water, rain, obviously, and nothing happened except for the lower areas. If anybody drove around Forson Avenue, at the end, I think it's Davis Street, there was a puddle of water. The condominium had water on the bottom of the parking lot where the catch basin is, but the water never reached, at least in my unit, the grass never reached the unit itself. And we had the whole day Saturday for about 4 inches of rain as far as it was declared in the news. And another note, you probably are aware that at this point that the President Biden did the declaration of disaster. I have the paperwork over here, and he actually declared both storms, December 17 and 19 and January 10, as disasters. I have copies over here if you guys want to have them, although I guess you have probably much easier access than I have. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Naket, President of Local 1363, Cranston Firefighters. I'd just like to speak quick on a news blip that came out this week, and it was implying that the Cranston Fire Department and their hiring system and promotional system was political. At least that's what I took out of it. I just wanted to give you a little insight on how it is. So when candidates apply for the fire department, they fill out an application, They have to do an agility test, which is run by the state. No political insight whatsoever on it. Then they take a written test where they're not a name on the test, they're a number. When those results come back, it goes to the chief and personnel. There is a oral board. The oral board is made up of 3 chiefs of the fire department, the EMS director, and the personnel director. So 5-member board that does the interview. And then they're placed on a list. And then we hire strictly in order off that list cadets that have their EMT license. There's no jumping around, there's no political anything. Then as far as promotions go, we take a written test. You're scored on that written test, you go on a promotional list, and then you're hired right in order by your seniority, because it goes by your test, and then your job experience, which we think goes a long way, job experience. There's no jumping around on the list. I know other departments jump around on the list. The city of Cranston is, since I've been on the job and even before me, has never, ever been a political job, and we take pride in not being a political job where you have to know somebody to get hired. I can tell you that one of my best interviews was in another city in the state of Rhode Island. And I say it was my best interview because I went in there and they asked me one question. They said, "Do you know anybody in the city?" I said, "No." "All right, we'll get back to you." But that interview got me hired in the city of Cranston because I went for a regular interview in the city of Cranston and I was hired on my merit. So we take pride in not being a political fire department where we're hired just on our merits, and I just wanted to let everybody know exactly how it's done in the city of Cranston. If there's any questions? Thanks.
Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters this evening? Okay, there being no one, Tom, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters?
There is no public comment.
Okay, public comment on undocketed matters is now closed. Next, we will go to page 5 under Council President Communications. I have on the agenda an update from the administration regarding the status of the city's participation in the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank's septic loan program. Last we heard in Public Works Committee, the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank at their monthly meeting in February had given its approval, and it was at the stage of the city's attorney along with the loan agency were working out the details relative to the loan, so that it's still not up and running for applicants, for residents to avail themselves of the fund. So if we could just have an update as to where things stand from Director Moretti.
Thank you, Council. Thank you. Lost the ball.
Oh.
Thank you. Yes, the update is the loan, the fundamental document to make it happen is it would be a loan agreement amongst the parties to the septic loan program. It's targeted for April 1st, which would be actually next week or very soon after. Zach in our office is beginning to formulate, assuming that's going to happen, and it's looking favorable. He's working with Rhode Island Housing to determine the procedures to be able to share and create notification and how the program to be rolled out. And he also expects to have an answer by the end of next week. So hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have the loan agreement procedures and we'll begin to communicate so everyone on the council, wherever we can, publicize the program. And again, once again, your concept from the beginning, Council President, so happy to help out execute this.
Thank you, Director Moretti. To the point of the application, if Mr. DeLuca, who is helping to draft the application, if he wants to, if you want, you can ask him, he can reach out to me, because I do have some, he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. There are resources out there he might not know of to help him along with the application. Thanks.
He'll give you a shout.
Thanks. Yep. And next, we have the continuing agenda item due to the unfortunate common occurrences of the flooding events, that as a topic as well. And the federal government, President Biden did in fact allow for state of disaster on a federal basis for the December and January storms in Rhode Island so that people can apply for relief through FEMA as was available for the September storm. Does the administration have anything they want to add along the lines relative to the flooding, relief to residents, mitigation efforts, or anything along those lines?
Yeah, but, side with what Council President mentioned, Mr. Molinari mentioned, that was great news. That happened faster than we thought, I think, with by getting that process signed by the president. The only one thing, we're receiving calls in the mayor's office having to do with the people hearing about the program by the Natural Resource Conservation Service about possibly taking houses. Again, the city's not administering that, but we're trying to establish a contact at that agency that either people can contact us and we can be a liaison with them, or we can provide a number that people can inquire. So I just want to mention that has come up. And again, I mean, we're hearing that this program is going to begin to be rolled out summertime. So we'll follow up on that and share any information that we are able to obtain.
Thank you. Do any council members have any questions relative to this topic? Nope. Okay, thank you. Next this evening, council member communications, and first up, we have Councilman Wall.
Thank you, Council President. It won't take a long time. I put on the soliciting prohibited ordinance on the communications today because I've got a number of calls recently with constituents concerned and complaining about people ringing their doorbells at, late hours and, at night after dark. And some of these constituents are living alone. They're older and they're concerned because they don't know at that time of day why a salesman would be ringing their doorbell. So a couple of people around, expressed that concern to me. And that brought me to ordinance, my eyes are not so good either, 5.40.140, soliciting at homes prohibited. And without the legal background, it seems to me as I read the ordinance, it says that type of door-to-door salesmanship is prohibited. So I told them I would bring this before the council on my communications and get, publicly get some kind of a legal advice on that. Anyone?
President, so Councilman Wall brings up an issue which I think the cities and towns throughout the state have grappled with now for a number of years. And when I was solicitor in Johnston, one of the first cases I had, I don't know if Attorney Angel remembers, but the town of Johnston was sued by the ACLU because we had a similar statute, not identical, but the idea was there was some type of effort made to regulate, for lack of a better term, these activities, and the federal court was pretty, they've been pretty consistent, pretty adamant that it implicates First Amendment concerns, okay? Now, as like most things in the law, there's no black and white here. There's no clear, easy, bright line that we can draw, all right? Clearly, if someone is knocking at your door, making a habit of it at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, and I'm using this as an extreme example, obviously, I don't think any court or any judge would find that to be reasonable, First Amendment or not. Now, however, and I don't want to get too deeply in terms of the legal aspects of this, only because we do have this ordinance on the books. I certainly don't want to lay out a roadmap for someone to be able to sue the city. I'd be more than happy to discuss the federal law and as it relates especially to our ordinance in executive session, I think that would be appropriate. I think I can say, just as to give you a general overview, that the courts consider this activity to be protected by the First Amendment. Does that mean it's absolute? No, nothing's absolute, okay? Everything is subject to a standard of reasonableness, but you can see how, if you're not careful, how this can affect not only door-to-door salesmen, but as Solicitor Millay pointed out to me just before I came up here, all of you are assuming, I'm assuming you're all running for re-election. What if people complain that I got, and they probably do complain, actually, people knocking at my door, I'm trying to eat dinner with my family, I've got to get up, I've got to go answer the door. It's along the same lines, and you could see where that would be problematic, because now you people would not be able to canvass door to door, because it's the same type of conduct. You might say, well, yeah, well, we're not doing it for profit. That's true, but the law doesn't make that distinction. So it's understandable that people have this concern. I mean, I was watching the NCAA tournament on Sunday. I'm on the couch, semi-conscious, and nice and relaxed. And I'm like, wow, this is life, this is living, and bang, 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 bang. And I'm on a Sunday afternoon, and I'm like, well, you know, I get up and there's a solar person there trying to sell me solar panels, and he's probably about the 20th one that's come to my home in the last 4 months. So I'll never forget when I was solicitor with Johnston and I went down to the federal court because the town of Johnston ended up getting sued by the ACLU. And I think it was Judge Smith at the time who had just gotten appointed. And when I brought up the same exact concerns you have, and I said, you know, Judge, I've got elderly people in the town. They're scared. They don't want to be bothered at, you know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And he said to me, well, the solution to that is you put up either a no trespassing sign or you put up a no soliciting sign on your door. That was his solution. And he didn't mean it, he did not mean that, and I don't mean that in a flippant, casual way. I mean, from a legal standpoint, if people really want to prevent that, that is the way to go. Because now if you come on someone's property, you have to remember your driveway and your walkway are essentially open invitations to members of the public, Amazon drivers, UPS, mailmen, you know, all of these people. There's an implied condition there that they can come onto your property. And these door-to-door people are, you know, the court doesn't consider them to be any different. So it's a tough balance that has to be struck. But to your point, I will say this, like I said at the beginning of my remarks, if somebody is consistently doing this after dark, at unreasonable hours, that's a whole different situation. So I think that's about as much as I can say without, you know, affecting the city's rights in a public forum, but I'd be more than happy to expand on it more in executive session if you like.
I mean, to that, and maybe, and I understand the point entirely, and I have been in some discussion with Councilman Ferry and Council President Marino about, I know I understand it's a constitutional right, but is, like you said, it's not absolute.
Nothing.
And are there parameters, reasonable parameters, setting up reasonable parameters? Like you referenced, very soon I'll be knocking on doors.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, I won't be knocking on the door after dark because I'm trying to influence the voters to vote on my behalf, not irritate them or alienate them or scare them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you're kind of hesitant to talk about this, but that's a discussion I'd want to have.
I have to use extreme examples just to illustrate the point. Like I said, someone 11 o'clock at night is banging on the door, or at 6 o'clock in the morning banging on your door. I cannot imagine, and we have two other lawyers here, obviously, who can chime in, but I doubt very much that if that were forbidden by an ordinance, I don't think that that would be challengeable. I really don't, because I can't imagine any court saying, oh yeah, that's, their First Amendment right. They have a First Amendment right to bang on your door at 5 a.m. or at 11:30 at night. But it's a very slippery kind of slope to go down because, and like I said at the beginning, there's no bright line. Now in the summer, it's light out until 9 o'clock, right? In early December at 4:30 around here, it's dark. So how do you tailor the, an ordinance around that? It would be pretty difficult. But it is an area that the courts very zealously safeguard. That's about as much as I can say.
Madam President. The ordinance as written needs some work. Doesn't comply with federal jurisprudence. So what work is being done on the ordinance that I'm aware of is to impose reasonable restrictions on the activity. I might also suggest as part of the ordinance that those soliciting have to provide some identification with respect to, who they work for, who they are, and display those credentials. To Mr. Videcchia's point, obviously, if you put a big sign on your lawn, don't bother me, don't trespass, don't solicit, well, buyer beware. And for the record, if anybody knocks on my door at 6 a.m, unlike Mr. Videcchia, I'm probably watching the reruns of the NCAA tournament.
Just want to thank Councilman Wall and Councilman Ferry. I know we've had discussions relative to this and to the attorneys as well. And we're in the process of formulating an ordinance that will give some type of protections and limits in terms of the times within the bounds of the law. And hopefully we'll be introducing that next month. But Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you. That's music to my ears, and I'm hoping that when that comes through, I'll actually sponsor that. I was just going through my email. I actually brought this conversation up in February, and again in March of 2019. At that point, we had got pretty much, and some of it is also in an email exchange. At that time, the clerk was Maria Wall, who also provided me some information on this. And then I'm not even sure if he's still with us or not in the city, but Chris Rawson actually had responded to this response as well. I actually had a situation where not only was I getting constituents who were a little bothered, just to use that word, in terms of the amount of knocking and items left in the house and so forth, but a lot of it actually stemmed through the solar panel situations. And that was the time that I got an email. But interesting enough, I also got an email from someone who lives in my ward who was working for a solar company, and he was actually seeking relief from this actual ordinance because my understanding was from the previous clerk was that you still have to have a identification, some sort of a linear to identify who you are as you are door knocking. I don't know if this applies in this specific ordinance or not, or if it's a state law, but either way, I'd be interested to know how this goes and when it comes before the council, because this was brought up in 2019 and the response was pretty much put up a no trespassing sign is what I got from the legal counsel from the previous administration. So just wanted to put that out there.
Anyone else wants to be heard? No? Okay. All right, thank you. Councilwoman Germain, as I mentioned earlier, unexpectedly is unable to attend this evening, so her agenda items, we will, I guess, continue to next month. Okay. We don't need a motion relative to that. Next, we have the introduction of new business. I'll entertain a motion to take the new business introduction as a block.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President
Yes.
Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, I'll entertain a motion to move each of these matters under the block to their respective committees.
So moved.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Good evening.